So before I talk about my hair transplant in detail and let you know what to expect if you indeed go ahead with having a hair transplant, I wanted to just talk briefly about alternatives to having a hair transplant, because you're no doubt researching the different options that are available. I spent a long time researching and testing different things. In fact, I did it over several years, just testing different products and different herbal remedies and so on. So I wanted to talk a little bit, first of all, about what is most effective as an alternative and these more sort of natural remedies, and what you can expect to get from those remedies, and perhaps who should be using the more natural approach and who might be able to avoid having a hair transplant and get the results that they need just from like more natural remedies. But there's all sorts of different things that you can do, and when you start researching it, you know, if you go around YouTube or, you know, just searching the internet, you'll see that there's loads of different like oils and creams and all sorts of things that you can use. There's more chemical based products, there's more like natural products. You know, I've just brought up this image here of like using coconut oil on your head. I mean, onion juice apparently is very good for your hair. I don't want to walk around stinking of onion personally. You know, yogurt hair mask and so on. So, you know, there's all these kind of things. Now, I went sort of quite deep on my research of the natural hair loss remedies, and ultimately it came down to there being a few highly effective remedies that are, you know, they've got the scientific basis for them and are going to give you, you know, the sort of best results. So over a period of time, the conclusion I came to is that the best combination of sort of, let's say, more natural approaches to hair loss is something like this, which is a Minoxidil spray, a good shampoo that's caffeine and something called saw palmetto, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and a supplement, ideally something like biotin, but also potentially finasteride. Finasteride is effective, but I just wouldn't touch it. There's so many side effects to it. You know, you've got to get on prescription. For me, having taken something like finasteride, don't forget you'd have to take it for decades as well. The side effects of it, the cost of it, the hassle of getting the prescriptions, etc., is just not worth it for me. Saw palmetto, though, is a reasonable alternative to finasteride, because basically what finasteride is doing is blocking what's called DHT, and DHT is what attaches. It's like an offshoot of testosterone, and it attaches to the hair follicles. And this is what's going to cause, like, it prevents hair growth essentially. So if you can block DHT, then you do get better hair growth, and that's what finasteride does. But for me, finasteride, as I say, there's just have a look on ChatGPT, all the side effects of finasteride, from like sexual dysfunction, erectile dysfunction, reduced sex drive, depression, anxiety, mood swings. There's also cognitive impairment, hormonal imbalances. And bear in mind that even if you don't get all these side effects at first, if you want to take something like this, you've got to be doing it for the long haul, because as soon as you stop, your hair loss will continue again. So you have to do it long term. So finasteride is effective. So I'm not talking about its effectiveness, although I will talk about what my results were. It's effective, but it's not as effective as getting a hair transplant. But for me, taking something like this long term is just not worth all the potential risks. So finasteride was a no. But saw palmetto, which is a natural herb, that also blocks DHT and is therefore effective. Probably not as effective as finasteride, but it's a lot more natural. Also, saw palmetto does have the other positive side effect of being healthy for the prostate as well. So it is actually given to people, you know, sort of medically for prostate as well. So for me, that kind of dual benefit of it blocking DHT, which helps with hair growth, and being healthy for the prostate, saw palmetto for me is a good alternative to finasteride, but I would say it's probably not going to be as effective. So building a picture of what you need to do to get good effects naturally, you're talking about a good quality shampoo, you're talking about a minoxidil spray, you're talking about supplements including biotin and saw palmetto. But you also need to combine that with microneedling. Now you can get cheap microneedles, which is like a roller, and these are like a rolling pin with like lots of small holes in. You roll it over your head, and basically what it's doing is it's creating small traumas on the head, which sounds a bad thing, but actually what it's doing is it's stimulating blood flow and stimulating healing. I would say that microneedling is probably the most effective thing that you can do, because it's really like drawing in the blood flow, and it's, you know, you're creating that healing response, which is a good thing, and can bring that blood flow to the actual hair follicles. So it's stimulating that hair growth. And if you combine that particularly with minoxidil, that combination is supposed to be very, very good. So microneedle, you need an electric one. The roller ones don't work anywhere near as well. So you need an electric one like this, like a pen one. And you need to be doing that once a week. So basically, I'd come to the conclusion, I'd bought all this equipment. I bought a microneedler like this one, and I was microneedling once a week. As I say, I was applying minoxidil twice a day. I was taking vitamins, and I was using a good quality shampoo. So I would say a very, very close regime to this Sun's one here. The cost of this is about £40 per month. In dollars, what's that? That's probably about 55, maybe 60 US dollars per month. And then obviously you've got the microneedling as well. You've also got all the time impact of it. So you'd expect, if you're putting all this effort and cost in, you'd expect to be getting fantastic results. So I did this for a period of at least 6 months. It was probably more like about 8 months that I did it for. And if I just go, I've not got a picture of my actual results, but I'll just go to my hairline. This was after I'd stopped doing it. So it receded again. Like I say, one of the big problems with doing it naturally is that as soon as you stop, you'll just get, all your hair will just start to fall out again. All the gains that you've had will just stop and will fall out. So if you stop using minoxidil, you stop doing the microneedling, it will all get unwound. So, but one thing I would say, the hair definitely grew thicker, and the actual, so I got more hair growth. So I got I would say a mildly noticeable improvement in the thickness, and the quality of the hair was kind of stronger and better. So the existing hair that I had was better, and I got a little bit of, I noticed some more hair coming through in this middle area of my scalp. So, you know, I can't say that it doesn't work. It was quite a lot of effort, and to be honest, quite a lot of cost as well. But I did see some thickening, as I say. Perhaps if I'd continued for years, perhaps you could say that, yeah, maybe I would have got a bit more of like a hairline more around this middle part over time. But just the amount of effort it took and the cost of it all, it just wasn't really worth it for the gains that I was getting. So my conclusion would be that if you're in the very early stages of hair loss, if you're just noticing some thinning, but you've basically still got your entire hairline, I think a regime like this is probably going to be effective enough for you. It does take quite a bit of effort. You need to make sure you're getting decent quality products, but you will probably find that this is enough for you without having to go to that extra level of having a hair transplant. If, however, you've got more extensive balding, either like mine here, or you've got quite a lot of balding around the crown, then it's just not going to cut it. And to be honest, it doesn't even stack up from a financial point of view either. I appreciate that with a hair transplant, there is a large upfront cost, but then that's it. You're done for basically decades. So it's kind of more of a set and forget approach. As I say, I think the biggest problem with the natural approach is that you're just going to have to do it for such a long period of time to get the results, that you just got to be so kind of religious with it. And eventually one day you're gonna give up, and then you're gonna lose your hair, and you're probably gonna end up having a hair transplant anyway, because you're just sick of having to microneedle all the time and things like that. So I tried it. It was kind of effective. I don't want to sort of say it's completely ineffective. That's not the case. It was kind of effective, but just my goal was to get a proper hairline and to grow proper, nice thick hair, and be able to have hairstyles and things again. You're not going to get that from the approaches that we're talking about, unfortunately. So, there's a whole industry out there that will try and persuade you that it is possible, that they want you to try out all these products, and people do spend a fortune on these products. But even if, but it's not just even about the cost or even kind of the effectiveness. It's also, for me, about getting those long-term results, and just being able to just get something done. And yes, there is a healing time with the FUE hair transplant, but at least it means that it's done. And once you get past that initial sort of 3 or 4 months where it's healing after the hair transplant, you've got you know, the rest of your life then just to get on with enjoying having your your hair and not having to worry too much about having to treat it and things. So that covers off, I guess, the natural approach compared to the hair transplant. Let's dig into now what the different types of hair transplants are and learn more about my own journey of having a hair transplant.